when you and President Nixon conceived of the bombing of Cambodia, you did it in order to interdict.
Come on. We have been bombing with drones and all kinds of weapons every guerrilla unit that we were opposing. It's been the same in every administration of either party.
The consequences in Cambodia were particular.
Come on now.
No. We're particular.
This is a program you're doing because I'm going to be 100 years old.
Right.
And you're picking a topic of something that happened 60 years ago. You have to know that it was a necessary step. Now the younger generation feels that if they can raise their emotions, they don't have to think. If they think, they won't ask that question.
On March 18, 1969, during the Vietnam War, the U.S. secretly began what would become a long and relentless bombing campaign in neighboring Cambodia. Had there been an international criminal tribunal for Cambodia, prosecutors would have had a field day with U.S. President Richard Nixon and his national security advisor and later Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. Establishing genocidal intent with these two would be a cakewalk. On December 9, 1970, Nixon would phone Kissinger to discuss the ongoing bombing of Cambodia. You see, Operation Menu, as it was called, was only an escalation of the bombing. Up to this point, close to 500,000 tons of bombs had already been dropped on Cambodia. 5 minutes after getting off of the call, Kissinger called General Alexander Haig to relay the new orders from the president. He wants a massive bombing campaign in Cambodia. He doesn't want to hear anything. It's an order. It's to be done. Anything that flies on anything that moves. You got that? Henry Alfred Kissinger died in his home in Kent, Connecticut, at the age of 100. His death has been met with an outpouring of sympathy and affection from major American news outlets, which may be even more troubling than his legacy. The Washington Post, along with a lengthy obituary, published a short piece on his, quote, carpet bombing of Cambodia. In it, the authors write, Ben Kiernan, a historian at Yale University and a leading scholar of the U.S. legacy in Cambodia, has estimated that around 500,000 tons of U.S. bombs were dropped on Cambodia. Interestingly enough, this figure is from a paper that Kiernan wrote in 1989 called The American Bombardment of Kampuchea, where he cites a figure of 540,000 tons. However, either unbeknownst to the editorial staff at the Washington Post or insidiously omitted, Ben Kiernan actually wrote another lesser-known article published in the Canadian Walrus magazine, in collaboration with Owen Taylor at the University of Oxford. This article was reporting that in 2000, upon a state visit to Vietnam, President Bill Clinton announced that he would release extensive Air Force data on all American bombings during the Vietnam War from the years 1964 to 1975. The still incomplete database reveals that from October 4th, 1965 to August 15th, 1973, the United States dropped far more ordnance on Cambodia than was previously believed. 2,756,941 tons worth. To put 2,756,941 tons into perspective, the Allies dropped just over 2 million tons of bombs during all of World War II. Cambodia may be the most heavily bombed country in history. Moreover, the two announced, the data released by Clinton shows the total payload dropped during these years to be nearly 5 times greater than the generally accepted figure. Nick Turse, author of Kill Anything That Moves, The Real American War in Vietnam, has clearly been prepared to write Kissinger's obit for years. Turse can appropriately be called America's leading expert, if not a foremost expert worldwide, on American war crimes during the Vietnam War. His book is probably the only one of its kind, solely dedicated to chronologizing these crimes in detail. Kissinger helped to prolong the Vietnam War and expand the conflict into neutral Cambodia, facilitated genocides in Cambodia, East Timor, and Bangladesh, accelerated civil wars in southern Africa, and supported coups and death squads throughout Latin America. He had the blood of at least 3 million people on his hands, according to his biographer Greg Grandin.